Hi, my name is Jindra, and today I will tell you something about snapshot testing and how to work with it and what to watch for. So imagine you have a large app that has like 40 screens, and you need to make sure that everything looks as it is supposed to look. How would you do that? Because if you write a lot of asserts for, I don't know, rectangles on the screen or colors, it will be very difficult, and there will be a lot of problems with maintaining this code. What if we actually take a picture of rendered screen and store it somewhere and later compare it with what is actually on the screen to see if there are any changes? So that's what actually is snapshot testing about, and it's very simple but powerful concept. So visual testing methods that works on comparing snapshots, and it basically has two modes. First one is something called record mode, and in this mode it will take screenshots of your app or views that you want to test, and will store the images as a reference. And in the test mode, it will actually compare those reference images with the things that are displayed on the screen. And why actually do this? Imagine that you have, I don't know, complex view hierarchy, and you are testing view controller that is, I don't know, some payment confirmation or something like this. And every time you want to see that view controller, you need to click like crazy through the app to actually see it. And that's the case when snapshot testing really helps, because if you are able to actually isolate the view controller and take its snapshot, you will see immediately how it looks. And you can also put it in different states. For example, I don't know how many of you test the case when you make a payment and validate in-app purchases, and the request actually fails. So you need to display something. And if this is not tested, it could cause a lot of problems, and users start to complain that the payments are not working. So this is a great case for snapshot testing to test like hard to reach states. And the tests are quite easy to write if you write your view controllers in a way that they can be easily instantiated. So you need to have, for example, storyboard identifiers, and you don't, or you can't have some dependencies that are very hard to find or hard to create, so that you can mock them and provide view controllers the data that they require. And obviously, you know when something breaks. That's the purpose of all the tests. You know exactly where it broke and what went wrong. So we have a little library that is called FBSnapshot test case. This is the library developed and used by Facebook. They actually use it for testing their own app. And the library can test multiple devices and screen sizes. And it can show visual difference in case the test fails. I will show you the example of that later. And it can also be customized to a specific workflow. So there's, if you are using, I don't know, Fastlane or some CI tool or building manually, this library is very flexible. So you won't have any problems integrating it with any of your projects. So it's CI friendly, already mentioned. It's very easy to use. Simply install it via CocoaPods, and you need to set FB reference imagedir variable in your environment variables and start writing tests. So I have an example of test here. First thing you need to do is to extend FBSnapshot test case instead of XC test case. Then you need to call FBSnapshot verify view with the view you want to test. I'm instantiating it from a storyboard and assigning some data to it so that I can see what I'm actually testing. And then if you don't have the reference images, you need to enable the record mode so that it actually stores the images on the first run. And also there is device agnostic flag that will separate the snapshots into screen sizes and operating systems that were used when running the tests. And this library groups the images into several folders. First one is like the reference images underscore 64, and this is the number of bits in the simulator or on the device that the test was run on, because there is a slight difference in how the text and images are rendered in 32 and 64-bit platforms. Then next folder, this is the name of the test class, and this is the name of the actual test method, and this is the device suffix. So this will be different for each device you will test on. And I highly recommend enabling those is device agnostic tests, because there are several differences in rendering, for example, between different versions of iOS, and also the images are different if you are using iPhone 7 simulator because of the white color range. And here you can see the visual difference. On the first picture, there is the reference image. In the middle, there is current one. And you notice that it's very hard to see what exactly is wrong. So on the third image, we have the highlight. So there is the bottom line label missing. And with those, you can easily find what's the difference. So I will hopefully show you a little demo. Oh, where's my mouse? Okay, the first thing I need to do is set up my environment variables, and these are the FB reference image dir and image diff dir, and those are the directories that will be used for storing reference images and then for visual differences. So that's the first thing I need to do, and there are the I think I can run the app so you can see what we are actually testing. Okay, so just a little app with several view controllers, scroll views and stuff like this. And you can actually type something here. I will generate a meme that you can share. Simple, nothing complicated. So, is this visible? At least a little bit, hopefully. So we have the setup function. As you've seen in the presentation, there is device agnostic. In the record mode, I've actually placed the direction or the record mode flag into environment variables. And here we have a test. So I have a view controller I'm creating it from storyboard, then getting some view model for that. And if you use more than one state in your view controller, you need to use the FBSnapshot verify view with the identifier. Otherwise, the snapshot tests will generate same image and it can be overwritten, so you will never actually see the different states. So I have separate image for empty, loading, and ready state, switching the modal state before each test. So I can switch to different simulator and comment this out. Where is that? Oh. So if I run the tests, it will compile for a while and you will see that all the tests will fail because I don't have reference images for the specific version of iOS and the simulator. So the tests are running right now. Oh, succeeded. Okay, so I have it. If you delete this, then it will fail. And if you enable the record mode, they will actually be generated. And if I go somewhere here and change something, for example, let's say I drop this assignment and run the test again, it will fail because I don't have the cell as it is supposed to look. It actually tells me that it failed and where exactly it failed, what is missing, and then I can see the difference if I have finds ready. So that's the basic usage. So let's continue. So one thing you need to do before you actually start doing snapshot test is to prepare your code. As I was mentioning before, you need to have a storyboard identifier on every storyboard if you are using Seguse, because you need a way how to actually create a storyboard, and you need to use some kind of architecture that will allow you to actually get rid of unwanted dependencies. Because otherwise you are unable to actually set the view controller into a proper state. And you obviously need to provide a fixed testing data in all the states you want to test. And this will essentially work as good code quality benchmark, because if you can't do this, that it means your code still has some dependencies that you should get rid of, or maybe think about restructuring your app. So there are a few gotchas that you need to watch for when doing snapshot tests. It's quite difficult to check the visual differences on device, because the different images are actually stored on the device itself. So you need to have some way how to actually get those images so you can see them. The reference images must be stored somewhere, so it can take quite a lot of space in your Git repository. So maybe it's a good idea to move it to some other submodule or something like this. If you are testing UI navigation controller and UI tab bar controller, those bars won't be visible because you are testing only a view. And this doesn't contain those bars, so you need to wrap the controllers in the navigation controller or tab bar controller, and then pass its view to FBSnapshot verify view to actually see the navigation bars. And if you want to test UI appearance, size classes, or visual effect views, you will need to enable uses draw view hierarchy in React, because that is some different method how the views are rendered, and this is a bit slower, but it takes into account all those effects and decorations. And there are also a few things that cannot be done, because simply you cannot render a WK web view, for example. You can't do animations, or you can't test animations. And if you have something with UI alert view controller, then it's quite difficult to test, because it's the same way with as with a navigation controller. You actually have it as a different view controller in the stack, so it's not able to be rendered. And also some status bars or overlays that are done as a separate window, because those can be seen on the screen but cannot actually be rendered. So, as I was talking about CI integration, the FBSnapshot test case has actually quite wide support for different CI solutions, and we use BuddyBuild at the moment, and this library is supported in BuddyBuild out of the box. So I can show you how it looks. We have the snapshot testing project here, and I have some failed tests. So if I check the test, I can see which test failed, and if I click the test details, I can actually see the visual difference images of the failed test, so it's quite easy to see what went wrong. So that's almost all. The project I was showing here can be found on my GitHub. You can also have a look on the snapshot test case library. And I recommend reading an article on Objective-C.io. It's a bit outdated, but there are still several valid points about snapshot testing. And if you are using something different from XC test case, there is probably a wrapper for FBSnapshot test case. For example, Ashforo, I don't know if you know this guy. He wrote a wrapper for Nimble, so you can use FBSnapshot test case also in Nimble. So that's it. Thank you. And if you have any questions.